Hello and welcome to India Tonight with me, Ankur Mishra and Shivani Gharat. And Shivani can't take off eyes from AI Summit and world leaders. In fact, globally watched out event has been the AI Summit, and India is firmly in the global spotlight due to it.
Absolutely, Ankur. And there are so many investments that have happened in the country over the past 4 days. It's commendable, and that is exactly the topic of our discussion, isn't it, Ankur?
Yes, as we are discussing the global spotlight of artificial intelligence, which has heated up, the recent India AI Impact Summit 2026 in New Delhi, massive commitments have poured in, signaling countries' growth ambitions. Tech giants and conglomerates are betting big. Over $250 billion worth of infra-linked investment commitments was secured at the summit. And these are the words which came in from Union Minister Ashwini Vaishnaw. He announced this massive commitment. And not only that, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has declared that India is not just participating in the AI revolution, it is leading it. He emphasized human-centric, inclusive approach to include AI, which is empowering rather than dividing, harnessing the nation's vast talent pool, digital public infrastructure, and young demographic. And Shivani, there are various comments which has poured in on AI Summit.
Absolutely, Ankur. Experts highlight India's strength, a booming service sector, explosive growth in global capability centers, and government initiatives like India AI Mission backed by thousands of GPU and funding for indigenous models. But challenges remain, from building sovereign compute capacity and addressing energy demands to bridging the global AI divide and ensuring ethical deployment. The question now, can India convert this momentum into true global leadership? The stakes and the investments have never been higher. But before we go on to our guests, let's listen in to what IT Minister Ashwini Vaishnaw said about the investment commitments.
We also have a lot of investment pledges. I was just asking Abhishek ji and Krishnan ji. I think the number is growing each day, so it's already crossed $250 billion for the infra-related investments, and about $20 billion for the VC deep tech investments which have been committed by investors. This is a very important sign for us. The numbers are important, but what is important is the world has confidence on India's role in the new AI age. That's very, very important for all of us because...
All right, massive commitment announced by IT Minister Ashwini Vaishnaw. And to discuss about it, we have eminent panel of guests, Mr. Ganesh Ramakrishnan, founding director of Bharat and let's also welcome Soham Choksi, co-founder and CEO Shipsy. First of all, I want to come to you, Mr. Ganesh. Massive commitment, $250 billion. It is more of an ambition or execution capabilities will be tested?
Thanks for that very important question. Now, it's all about ecosystem. When the industry finds that there are startups, there are academia. I mean, I personally am a faculty at IIT Bombay. We built this consortium of 9 academic institutions and a Section 8 company called Bharat. So when the industry finds that people in India are willing to do deep tech, I think that's a key message. The willingness to put your skin in the game, and the fact that there are people who are willing to leverage that patient capital. I think there's a supply-demand, reinforcement going on here. So the excitement shown in terms of building out recipes with foundational models, their applications, their view as glass boxes, this, in my understanding, is a big source of reassurance, right? And that's what has drawn, that has also contributed to this $250 billion for the infra and $20 billion for VC. And one very important part of the ecosystem is overall education, right? Overall capacity building in the country. When I met the Honorable PM on 8th Jan, he made a very striking point that he continued reinforcing it in the plenary yesterday, that Indians are not scared of AI. Now, this is being turned into an advantage through such a beautiful event, so well organized. Uh, I mean, what is the message? The message is people don't want to just adopt AI, but also want to understand AI, right? Become producers, IP producers in this country. So I think this is all a messaging that we are ready to become producers of AI. We are willing to do deep tech in this country.
Let's get on to you, Mr. Choksi. If you can help us understand, what would be the definition of the success of a summit like this? Yes, we are talking about $250 billion committed to AI infrastructure, but 5 years down the line, how would you evaluate the success of this investment in terms of the change in average, citizens' life, and also for many startups such as yours?
No, I think that's a great question, and it's a phenomenal investment that is committed towards the infrastructure, towards AI. I think the key thing that is bound to change, and as the Honorable Prime Minister actually said, is that AI to be used for inclusivity, right? Now, as a startup, as a company in the AI space, specifically, let's say logistics, which is the use case of Shipsy, we look at AI in ways like, for example, drivers, right? So today, languages in India, it's a very diverse country, and language has been one of the biggest barriers. We're looking at AI and seeing how this can actually unify people all across, and how language can stop being a barrier. Now imagine you're in a state, you don't speak the local language, you're expecting a delivery. And if AI can actually seamlessly help bridge all of these gaps, they can seamlessly help drivers actually speak in natural language, understand, how their earnings are and how they can actually earn more. This is where AI can actually be used, and especially for citizens like us, and for everyone, right? How we can actually do much better and be and how AI can be more inclusive. I think the other thing is how India is now poised to become a global powerhouse when it comes to even AI. Right, enterprises globally are now looking at India as not just a services center, but also an innovation center, and how AI can actually help them improve things like productivity, help with cost savings, and really build a big center from India to the world when it comes to AI. So 5 years down the line, as we look at how the success metrics, as you mentioned, for this summit would be evaluated, it would be the deep penetration in day-to-day lives of everyone in the country, and how India can actually become a global powerhouse and move from not just a services powerhouse to an AI powerhouse, delivering services globally.
Mr. Ramakrishnan, I want to come to you now. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has also announced Manav. In fact, the kind of approach which India is having, the human-centric approach, how different it is going to be, or it is from China and US model?
So, by the way, I was fortunate to be on the stage just before the Honorable PM announced Manav, and we held hands together and welcomed this very important strategic announcement. Of course, it was voluntary, but even the voluntarism is a very strong show of collective intent. Coming to this important human-centric nature, right, of whether it's Manav or whether the entire approach in AI in India has to be, in fact, people and planet are so key, two of the three pillars for this Impact Summit. If you want AI adoption to happen, and if you want the AI adoption to sustain, it is absolutely essential that it is human-centric. In fact, AI has to play the complementary or supplementary role. Why? Because anything that survives, any technology that survives, is a technology that provides alternatives, right? A technology that actually lets you choose is a technology that will actually survive. And what does that mean? Right? A technology to lay alternatives on the table to choose from. There was an example, right, provided by Choksi on the use of voice interfaces. Now, certainly, taking instructions in the form of speech and then being able to ensure that there is seamless autonomous behavior is very welcome. But at the same time, there are very critical, mission critical applications like in defense, where you would not do that completely automatically. You really want validation, right? You might want the ML to lay down plans, but the human to choose, the domain expert to choose. So having alternatives ensures that you'll find the most appropriate fit for a given scenario, and that makes the AI technology, or in fact, any technology, acceptable and sustainable. So that's one point, right? People centricity to sustain. The other aspect of people centricity and adoption is scale. I mean, if you want to cater to the entire population here, the kind of investment that is being talked about, and we are very grateful and happy that we made some very important MOU announcements between Bharatjan and L&T and then Bharatjan and another very important startup called Sempike today, is basically to scale inference, right, towards being able to cater to the entire population. Because what we have seen today is just the tip of the iceberg. We just barely scratched the surface of AI adaptation. If you want AI adaptation at scale, you will have to think about infra that is actually tuned to the workload. Right?
Yeah.
As we build our models, as we build our solutions, the workloads
Yes.
also have to be tuned.
You made a very interesting point, Mr. Krishnan, Professor. Now, taking a cue from that, if I may ask you, sectorally, which sector benefits the most from this entire AI evolution in next 4 to 5 years, and which sector, whether it's agriculture, whether it's healthcare, is the most prepared to embrace this AI evolution fully today?
In my humble opinion, education is very key here. For the following reason, I mean, education is basically ubiquitous, whether it's governance or health or agriculture, you'll always have elements of education. So I would always put education as something that's ubiquitous. But coming back to human in the loop, education will not serve its complete purpose if it's going to just replace the teachers or the mentors, right? The tutors. So it's important that it plays a very complementary role. In fact, there's a Sanskrit word for it called yojaka. Right? Yojaka is one that connects. Can we have AI play the role of a yojaka? It's a very nice subhashitam in Sanskrit as well, right? Amantram aksharam nasti, nasti moolam anaushadam, ayogya purusho nasti, yojakas tatra dullabha. Very powerful. Basically, it says that there is no akshara which is not has some import. There is no root, right, in nature which doesn't have medicinal value. And then absolutely every person has great potential. What is rare is the yojaka that connects people and their potentials together. AI can be that yojaka. So therefore, I find that to be the most important element, and it can have applications in agriculture as a yojaka. For example, just letting farmers make informed decisions and ensuring that their horizon increases, right? Just expanding the scope of horizons, right, and letting them see the implications.
Definitely, point well taken. Now we want to understand it practically. Investment has come. We have seen quite a successful event. But on a practical basis, two questions comes in my mind. First, are our talent pool ready to adapt such kind of changes which is going to be there? Is skilling there? And more importantly, I want to come to you first, Soham, for a reaction. Is enterprises actually paying for these kind of AI adoption? What is your experience there?
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic question. And I think, look, since we work with enterprises, not just in India, but also globally, right, we're seeing a definite move towards enterprises paying for these technologies, specifically because it yields amazing outcomes, right? So I'll give you some real world examples. Today, large enterprises, specifically if you see logistics, globally, it's a $10 trillion industry, right? And it's a lot of these invoices that keep going from, let's say, the shipper to the logistics company. And today, people can only verify about 10% of the invoices because there's just so much of manual documentation to be verified, right? And they take hours and hours and sometimes days to do it, which means, transporters get payments late, et cetera, et cetera. Now, AI can actually solve this. So we have an agent that helps amplify the potential of all of the members in the ecosystem on settlements, right? Which is to say that how can the AI agent actually audit 100% of the invoices, do that in 1/10 the time, and only have human in the loop for the exceptions, right? Now, these are some key business outcomes that yield direct cost savings for large enterprises, and people are willing to pay for that. So I think the key thing is it's not just about paying for AI. It's not just about a technology. It's about business outcomes, right? Some of the other use cases are, let's say, in pharmacy. We work with large pharmacy companies that deliver medicines to your doorstep. Now, a lot of times these are very time sensitive. Now, drivers sometimes require a lot of assistance to get to your home. There is an agent that actually speaks in natural language to drivers, gives them the last mile directions in terms of how to reach the house, where to park, gives nudges like that so that the drivers save time and the end customers get these medicines fast. And this, again, means enterprises have a direct benefit in terms of a business case, right? So I think the way if we look at it is, as long as there is a business case, people are willing to pay, and the business case could be around saving costs, improving customer experience, any one of these.
Absolutely. Let's get on to Professor. Now, there is something that also was announced specifically today, that India joining the Pax Silica Alliance. Now, it gives us access to, high-end chips, AI chips and GPUs. So beyond all of this high-level diplomacy, how does this, Pax Silica membership ensure Indian researchers also, to experiment and play along and give direct access to some of these GPUs and chipsets? And how do Indian researchers and AI researchers stand to benefit out of this Pax Silica Alliance going forward?
Thank you for this question. So, first of all, we need to understand that for the large-scale training of these models or the inference, I think the inference is probably what is going to be, in the longer run, the game changer. It's very important to have visibility, right? What does that visibility mean? Visibility into not just the GPUs, but the way these GPUs communicate with each other, the way a cluster of GPUs communicates with another cluster of GPUs, right? So this communication, in fact, a lot of the innovation has been at the level of this communication, giving almost a virtual memory feel across these GPUs, right? The communication network also kind of helps ensure that there's memory, there's communication, all of them happening very seamlessly. Getting visibility into that stack is very critical. And this important engagement, which was announced to the PAC, is very critical because that gives us an avenue for better visibility. Why is that visibility important? Because as we do inference, our workload should help us today in finding the right configuration, which will ensure that our latency is small. Or in some cases, you may want to have a trade-off between fidelity and latency and be able to choose, right? Again, I come back to my choice, but I need to make informed decision. Without visibility into the infra stack, I can't make informed decisions. And the second aspect is, today we make informed decisions, but tomorrow we may be able to innovate, right? For example, if we can use our workloads to do better ASIC designs, is it possible that we are able to come up with not only better chips, right? And some beautiful announcements being made. L&T, we've been working with L&T, NVIDIA, many other companies are joining this. Now imagine as we develop this capability, we're able to design better chips that suit not only the Indian models, Indian speech, but also the usage patterns as adoption grows. This will lead to innovation in the future. So I think this was a very important strategic move I think kudos to the government, kudos to the leadership for making this happen. And we are very happy to contribute in every possible way.
Absolutely. Let's get Mr. Choksi's reaction on this India joining the Pax Silica Alliance. To what extent does this also de-risk, this entire supply chain issue that the world was facing? And also, how does it translate to lower costs for some of your enterprise clients?
Yeah, no, I think globally, if you see supply chain and logistics is anywhere from 10 to 18% of the cost of any enterprise, right? Now, this cost is traditionally, with volumes increasing today, the costs are only increasing, right? Especially in markets like US, Europe, Australia, and other markets, right? Where, let's say, the drivers are at, there's a shortage, even in India for that matter, right? And with these volumes increasing as e-commerce rises, there is actually a shortage of people. And there is a clear use case how AI can actually be used to amplify human potential. If we can actually help these drivers earn more by doing more, right? And thereby actually hence reducing the cost per delivery. Because then, for each of us as end customers, every year we want our deliveries to come faster. We want it to be cheaper. We want more selection. And that's exactly where AI comes in, helping improve productivity, helping reduce costs, helping remove leakages, improving route planning, optimization, and really helping enterprises.
All right, gentlemen, due to paucity of time, I'm sorry I'm interrupting you in between, but thank you so much for your time and joining with your views.
Thank you very much for having us, Ankur and Shivani.
Thank you.
Moving on, a day ahead of conclusion of India AI Summit